Welcome to Be the Light, a program created by the May Organization to spotlight solutions for a stronger community. Be the Light, Hope in Our Community, is designed to shine a light on the challenges our neighbors face and work together to create positive change. Their mission is to address critical issues facing the community with a primary focus on homelessness and food insecurity, but there's more. The aim is to raise awareness, inspire action, and bring positive change to those who are in need. I'm Deb Moraes, your host and moderator today, and in this first segment, we'd like to introduce our first two guests. First, the founder of the May Organization, we'd like to welcome Martina Javid. Martina, happy you're here.
I am so elated to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. She is the recent winner of the John Chafee United Way for Outstanding Community Service. And with us also to her left is Isa Price, who is the Executive Director of the May Organization. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
We're so happy that you're here. So let's begin with you telling us about the May Organization, and first, the name of your organization. Though some may understand the translation, some may not. What is its significance? What's its meaning?
So when I had the inspiration to found May Organization, I wanted to dedicate it to Mother Mary. We were not a religious organization, but it was my inspiration, and therefore the name May, which means my mother in Portuguese. And to me, that really just stands for fostering, a supportive environment to all of those that we assist. And it also stands for mental health awareness, which is really, really our primary focus.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll have to explore that a little bit more. So Martina had just mentioned the mental wellness component of this. Could you tell us a little bit how that plays into the homelessness and the food insecurity and your mission?
Absolutely. It's been since day one that I got involved with May Organization. The message that Martina has sent to all volunteers and to all of us on the board at that time and now as an executive director, mental wellness is at the base of what we believe causes, and there are puzzles to what causes homelessness, but mental illness is that center, bigger piece of the puzzle, and one that Martina, from day one, has been addressing from the beginning when she was volunteering by herself or at local shelters, seeing the need to address it to now. That's critical to the piece of May providing services to the homeless population.
Clearly, there are other organizations that provide some homeless shelters and whatnot. So to hear this component is very interesting. So Martina, let's ask you again, how did you actually form this organization? How did it begin? What made you do it?
So it was an inspiration, and I, at the time, was in a very spiritual place in my life, and I was taking expressive arts program.
Oh.
And through that program, I realized that it was so fundamental for my own wellness, and knowing that it is recognized worldwide to be beneficial in the healing of patients in hospitals, cancer patients in hospitals. I personally benefited from that in the hospital. When the AIDS epidemic first came on, individuals in mental health hospitals, when combined with conventional medicine, the person is able to heal much quicker. And so learning this and benefiting from it, I wanted to use these modalities of allowing people to express themselves in ways that they would feel at ease, because sometimes talk therapy is not always the best route for them. They can't express themselves so adequately, but they can on paper or through music or through poetry. And that's when I received this inspiration to turn my eyes and ears to the cries of the homeless. And so I began volunteering at a local family shelter that is no longer there, And while I was there providing these holistic programs, I would be working with men right out of prison, moms and children. And when I was there, they didn't always accept me immediately because they thought I was a paid person to go there, don't waste my time. But as we would progress through the program, these very tough men would start crying like babies. And the women would own their name because even owning their personal name was difficult for them. And so that's the foundation. From our grassroots, that's really the way I wanted to approach homelessness, is by first approaching the person body, mind, and spirit. And
The holistic approach.
The holistic approach.
That's fascinating because that's not how we hear, whether it's Rhode Island where May organization is based, or in Massachusetts, they have various, in Massachusetts, coalitions to help people who are homeless and need temporary shelters. This is a very interesting basis for you to start from.
Thank you. I know that back then, mental health programs were not widely available to the homeless population. And so procuring ways to assist them was a little difficult, but here we are, and it's flourishing. And then post the pandemic, COVID pandemic, it's, it opened the eyes to everyone, and mental health awareness is everywhere now, which it should be.
That's very
And the
interesting.
good part is that it's being recognized worldwide, right, Martina?
being
It's just there's
recognized,
numerous researches and papers published that shows the benefit of having this holistic approach to end homelessness, as other many diseases and everything else that she mentioned. But yes, it's wonderful to see the progression.
How does someone come to you? How do they find you? How do they end up? Is it a referral? Is it word of mouth? Is it another organization? How does that work?
Right. So we've been established for now 15 years. Out of those 15 years, word of mouth has been tremendous. Just the fact that a client that we support can share a story on how we assisted. It could be placing them into shelter, helping go to shelter, I should say, or maybe coordinating housing. So word of mouth is critical. Since then, and with technology, we had to address the need to go online. So we now have
Unitas.
a platform, which is actually a national platform that we use, but concentrated in Rhode Island. It's called Unitas, as Martina mentioned. That gives us the opportunity to receive referrals for assistance, and it could be from all different programs, but it comes from different organizations, different agencies. It could be Thunder Mist, it could be
United Way.
Yeah, United
Crossroads.
Way. It could be all the Crossroads doesn't use that system, but yes,
But they
from
do a lot of
different
referrals.
agencies. So that's another piece. We also the number one approach of connecting with our clients, it's at the meal sites.
That
So
makes
there
sense.
we connect to over, and that's being a little conservative, over 1/3 of the homeless population in Rhode
third.
Island. So there is when our volunteers have the time to show that empathy, to show our roots of understanding and respecting the human being that's coming to get that meal, right? And then they start establishing these relationships with our volunteers. It could be with our outreach coordinator or one of us. And so there's many other ways, but those are the primary ways that they are referred or come to us.
That is where we begin providing outreach, is by getting to know the person that's there, because we form this community and they look forward to coming back. You know,
Yes.
they get to know other people who are going through the same thing. And knowing that they have this supportive way of coming together, having a nurturing meal, and being able to tell their story, that's where we begin forming relationships, very deep relationships.
And if I could add, it's not them only approaching us, it's also us approaching them, right?
How does that happen?
We will go to encampments,
Yeah.
or if we
Yeah.
know, for example, and when we have volunteers that do this week after week, they start recognizing and
Yeah.
start becoming friends with our clients, and then as
Building trust. It's
building
building
trust,
trust is a
we
big
may
thing.
miss that person at that weekly service, and then we'll go and search for them. Or it could be walking the streets of
Yeah.
Providence at Kennedy Plaza
Yeah.
and reaching out and talking, how can I help you? Is there anything we can do for you? Here's our information. So it's not just them coming to us, but we play a
go to them.
huge part
Yeah.
in going to
Yeah.
them.
So you have-
That's really how the outreach at my organization began, was truly walking the streets of Providence, knowing where they might be and approaching them. Hey, I'm here to assist you. Is there anything I can do for you? And then they begin asking and for their needs, and we try to meet them. I mean, from doing that, I've driven people to shelters, I've driven people to hospitals, and some of them we still have relationships with today.
That's interesting. So where are or how do you administer the meal services that you have, and where are they set up, and how does that work?
So right now we serve 6 primary communities throughout Rhode Island. As I mentioned, with the online system, we basically support all of Rhode Island, not from the hot meal perspective,
Yeah.
but from food assistance perspective, right? We even have this show air in Massachusetts. We have even assisted people in Massachusetts. But our primary localities, communities that we serve, are 2 in Providence. We do West Warwick, we do Pawtucket, Woonsocket. We do now North Smithfield on times, not as consistent Smithfield. So we're expanding the reach as to where we go.
What kind of facility are you in? Is it a church basement? Is it where do you
You
do
mean
this?
providing the meals?
Yes, how does that work?
So we actually bring the meals outside. We meet them where they are and where we know they can find us. So our very first meal site was in Providence, and we set up sort of like banquet style. And they come and we give them their meal. They go, they get the hot meal, they get a bagged lunch, they get toiletries, they get clothing.
Toiletries too.
Toiletries as well, because toiletries, I mean, imagine being out there and you don't have a place where you can wash yourself and you don't have these things. Imagine being a woman on the streets when she's going through her cycle and she doesn't have the toiletries necessary. So that's very important that we bring it to them.
It sounds very
Yeah.
humane.
There is in West Warwick, we used to do that outside. We lucky enough, due to some of the location conflicts, that we now provide this meal inside. It does come we do it
Yeah,
at Health
yeah.
Equity Zone. So, but that's the only site. That's the only
Most
site.
sites, regardless of rain, snow, unless there's extreme weather, and I'm talking extreme, we don't serve. Otherwise, we are there always, and they will come.
Just a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago was 12 degrees, right?
Yes.
Or at least it felt like 12. And our volunteers were outside
Yes.
serving
Yeah.
meals.
How many volunteers are there? in
So
your organization?
this number can be, 100 is usually the number that we sustain, but it
100
can
volunteers.
be more. I was talking about this to Martina today. Next week, we have a middle school coming in. At that time, they're bringing 18 students and 5 teachers, adults. So it's sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less. But 100 is an average number of our volunteers.
And I think that's an average number of the consistent volunteers who are
Right,
actually May
consistent.
volunteers who do the cooking, who do the prepping, who serve, who come to the center on a regular basis, who help us continue this mission.
That's amazing. So I also want to touch on, when you talk about mental health, mental wellness, you have other modalities that you use, and I think you mentioned, or I read something about equine therapy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that anyone would automatically assume that someone who is trying to take care of some basic primary needs also has this as a modality.
Yeah.
Would one of you
Right.
address
I mean,
that?
equine therapy is very special to me. First, because I'm a lover of horses, and I know, I know how they are with people. They're an extremely intuitive animal, and so they have been used for therapy for many years now, and it is unique to Mayo Organization. So we, in fact, our most recent client that I took there is a breast cancer survivor. Actually, she's going through breast cancer. And when she comes to equine therapy, that's her favorite modality of expressing herself. She comes and she bonds with this horse. And they do tremendous work together. She just starts talking. And it's funny because the horse will approach a client in the way that they need to be assisted. So if they come face to face with you, that has one meaning. If they give you, you know, for example, they're behind, you are experiencing root causes, you know, like familial issues. So it's very interesting, the process.
I am familiar with how equine therapy is used for autistic
Yeah,
kids, and
yeah.
that's had benefit.
Yeah.
That's really
Yes.
So the
fascinating.
same
that you-
thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me about who actually uses your services. Moms, dads, parents, kids, who?
I mean, really, like everybody, like I was saying that, you know, men who are straight out of prison needing assistance, like where do I go, what do I do? Moms with children, families who lived paycheck to paycheck and, you know, lost their job, and where do I turn, what do I do?
We've been talking to different people where they were very successful with their
Yes.
careers, and then just small turns in their life. It could be losing an apartment or losing their jobs. And then so demographics, we could provide some information, but we really support all. And lately, from the people that we've been assisting, a lot of moms with children.
A lot more.
A lot. We actually have someone now in a motel that we placed for emergency shelter, a homeless mother with an autistic child.
So I understand sometimes you have tents, you have apartments, you have hotels.
Yes.
How does that work? How does that happen? How did you acquire that? How do you get to determine who needs what?
Right. So our housing, as we call our housing assistance program or emergency shelter program, has different areas of support. Tents and sleeping bags. In this case, we do have some individuals that do not do well at a shelter,
Right.
and they do prefer, regardless of weather conditions, to stay outside.
And a lot of them prefer to stay in a tent because they have animals and they're not allowed inside the shelter. So I
Or
was
motels.
You
or,
even
or
accommodate
motels.
that.
Or motels.
Yeah,
Okay,
so they
that's
won't
interesting.
accommodate, and they will go through anything to stay with their fur babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So assessing what each person needs is
Yeah.
part of what our outreach coordinator does. We've been very lucky to be able to, in 2023, hire a part-time outreach coordinator. She will do the assessment once talking to each person and then determine. But specifically tents and sleeping bags, that's done at the meal site and by our volunteers.
And when you are talking with them, when you're serving the meal, that's when you might find out that they are also either
Yes.
That's yeah. By
that's how you find
providing
out what
the
they-
outreach, that's when we find out, are they chronically homeless, meaning they are sleeping in a tent, they are sleeping somewhere outside, in inhumane situations sometimes. But you know, it's a lot. Mental health affects that. It affects their ability to be able to advocate for themselves or to move forward. So that's where we can come in do the assessment.
And let's
take
not
care.
forget, that's not the only case.
Right,
That
yeah.
we just dealt with a couple cases, there's not enough beds.
There's not
in
enough beds
shelters.
at a shelter, and there's
Depending on the situation, there's not enough beds. And then at that time, we'll make a determination if we will put the person into emergency shelter, as we call it, a motel stay. Not everybody that comes to us gets to, in most cases, we do support everyone that needs a motel, right? Not for prolonged amount of times.
Certainly.
Because our funding is
yeah.
very limited. So most of the time, we will do 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, and then either go really all out, try to get a shelter for that person, or reach out to other organizations that may have funding as well to kick in after we're done with our funding for that one particular person. But not everybody that reaches out to us regarding housing, we can assist.
Right.
There's many that we have to turn away because we just don't have enough funds.
And then where do you know, where do they go? What do you have a referral place? Do you have a suggestion for what else they might be able to do? Or is it just, I'm sorry, we can't help you right now?
We always refer.
You do?
Many times it's like goes in circle, and they'll come back. I tried this, and they come back. So our outreach coordinator does an amazing job to keep going and fighting for them.
And we have the coordinated entry system in Rhode Island,
We
which
do.
if there's absolutely no way we can help them, I mean, that's always the first process that they have to go through.
Exactly.
Is to get established through coordinated entry, where they are recognized in Rhode Island as a person who needs assistance because they are homeless. And then they're in line to get into a shelter bed, or to if they're already in shelter, to move into housing, because a lot of times they're in a list that's in the 3,000, 300. It's like, how do you wait that long to get into
Certainly, how
housing?
do
So
you? Yeah.
so they lose hope, and so they delve deeper and deeper into homelessness. So we try to prevent that. We work really hard at trying to find housing for the individuals that we know are able to sustain it, where they might, not have to go to shelter, but the housing crisis is incredible and there's nothing to be found. So if there's no shelter beds, what do these people do?
I know it is a national crisis.
It's a national
for
crisis,
housing.
yeah.
But if you're finding people at either it's a momentary low point because of a specific situation, or that it's chronic because it's substance or not, just whatever's happened to them. So over a period of time, how long might you work with someone? Weeks, months? Help them get a job? Is that part of what you do?
That is definitely part of
So
what we do.
every person has their own individual case, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
There are individuals that the only interaction we have is, how can we help you? And they will tell you, I'm homeless. We help contact coordinated entry. We get them in the system. They're lucky enough to get those support systems because they do a great job.
Yes,
There's many agencies out there that's doing an amazing
Yes.
job. So that could be that short emergency interaction that we have. And then we have the long-term support that we have with different individuals. So we could, in one case, I'll give you an example of one case, a mother and daughter living in a car. We went through all the processes, got her into housing. It's been now a year and a half. She just came back to our support where we did Christmas gifts, and she
that
came
baby.
back, and she wants to participate more on our program. She did our financial workshop. She did a one-on-one mentorship with our volunteer. So in some cases, years.
Indefinitely, and then in others, like she said,
Right.
it's
A quick
just
interaction.
a quick interaction.
So you mentioned that you have coordinators, but it sounds like you have a very wide scope of services that you provide. How many people are working with you these days? I know you're executive director and you're boots on the ground, literally,
Right.
and there are volunteers, but you're mentioning job training, financial, mental and wellness
Wellness,
yeah.
support. we haven't talked about
You wouldn't
others,
believe
but
it. We have very small organization.
it sounds as if it's
So
vast.
14
Doing
years,
very big things.
14 years, 100% volunteer based.
Yeah.
Providing a diverse list of services all through volunteers. We love our volunteers.
Yeah.
Just last year, we hired 2 people. The numbers, as we'll talk maybe in a different segment, were skyrocket. And we had to hire a procurement coordinator and an outreach coordinator.
What is a procurement coordinator?
So Norm, we love Norm. He basically...
He's 10 people in one.
Oh my goodness, yes, 10 in 1. He basically interacts with each meal site coordinator. He gets their menu for the meal on a weekly basis, monthly basis, bi-weekly, however they are. And then he goes and shops. And he gets, or in some cases, we have organizations such as We Share Hope, which is a great partner, which will donate some food. They've been a little less lately because they're reaching out to so many.
Yes.
But he will go not only to We Share Hope, he goes and shops at BJ's, which is a great supporter for us as well. He will go Trader Joe's. Just the other day said, hey, come and get a pallet of food. He will go get in our SUV or his truck and goes. And then he delivers to the cooks. Because we basically, most of our cooks are doing this from home. Our goal, our dream is to have our own place where we have a large kitchen and
We have
a commercial
our own place,
kitchen.
but we need a bigger place.
Bigger
So
place.
The commercial kitchen,
Yeah,
yes.
a commercial kitchen. But he will deliver to those coordinators and be that one-on-one support so that they can have the food to cook and serve thousands of meals.
And you know, this young lady that she's speaking of, for example, she doesn't have any family members that she can rely on, but she considers May like her extended family. We support her. We check in on her. How are you doing? So it's very important to foster these relationships so that they can strive and become
Self-sufficient, independent, empowered.
That's really very
the empowering
exciting.
piece.
Yes.
Well, I think we've covered so many topics in this first segment, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this.
Thank
We
you.
want to thank you for watching this segment of Be the Light, Hope in Our Community. We hope you'll continue to stay tuned as we explore other topics, and you too may empathize, perhaps donate, perhaps volunteer, and continue to strengthen the community. Thank you for tuning in to Be the Light. Join us next time. Thank you.